Uganda. She gained independence from Britain on the 9th of October 1962 as a Commonwealth realm with Queen Elizabeth II as head of state. In October 1963, Uganda became a republic but maintained its membership in the Commonwealth of Nations. The first post-independence election held in 1962 was won by an alliance between the Uganda People's Congress, UPC, and Kabaka Yeka, KY. UPC and KY formed the first post-independence government with Milton Obote as executive prime minister, with the Buganda Kabaka, Edward Mutesa II, holding the largely ceremonial position of president.
That the government and parliament exercise powers entrusted to them by the people, and that the same power must be exercised solely in the interest of the people. A good politician is one who respects the will of the people. A good politician is one who knows that at an election, the electorate have the power either to confirm the current representative or transfer their trust to another representative.
Fast forward to 1986. When Museveni became president of the Republic of Uganda and is president till this present time, the year 2017.
That what is happening today, or what has been happening in the last few days, is a mere change of guards. This is not a mere change of guards. I think this is a fundamental change in the politics of our country.
All right, now that you've mentioned that, Dr. A, from where you sit, what's your take on what's going on in the Ugandan parliament due to some of the officials wanting to amend the law that states you cannot vie for the presidential seat if you're below the age of 35 or above the age of 70?
That group, and using the terrible aggression that he has already unfolded. You know, he will kill those who oppose him, he may imprison, he may attack and maim. I have just come back from seeing some of the victims, of his victims who are in different hospitals. So he may go ahead and change it. But it's a waste of time. Whether he changes, whether he doesn't change it, his time is over. Because the people are alive and up, and so that's why I'm very optimistic that the transition is definitely coming.
And the aspiring president insists the government controls the people, the institutions and the resources, which forces the citizens and residents of Uganda to lack a voice of their own.
There is something called occupational hazards. Every occupation has its hazards. Even as a journalist, you know how many journalists are killed every year in conflicts in which they are not party, where they are reporting about the conflict, and many journalists are killed, many journalists are maimed, many journalists are traumatized. Here in Uganda, whenever I am attacked, many journalists become victims alongside myself. So, yes, it's traumatic to the families of those who apply themselves in situations that cause them to be in dangerous situations, that cause them to be in situations where they may be suffer indignity, humiliation. It is visited on the families. So the choice is either not to engage or to engage and try to contain what the damage is. And containing means really engaging with the members of the family so that they understand the dynamics, so that they accept, they come to terms with what you are likely to go through.
Notice the FDC's leader's reaction when mentioning Kenya's opposition leader Raila Odinga. The two opposition leaders from the neighboring countries were indeed close until the opposition leader from Kenya decided to campaign for Yoweri Museveni during Uganda's general elections in the year 2011 on the month of February.
In Kenya actually tried to place the opposition in Uganda with the opposition in Kenya, which I think is not necessarily the case. Some time back, Raila came to campaign for Museveni. In the last election, Ruto was here campaigning for. So they have different interests. We have different interests. But I think the ruling by the Supreme Court was exciting for me on one critical point, because they made the point that the quality of the election is vital, that you cannot argue that an election which does not follow the law should stand because one is not able to demonstrate the effect of not following the law. That has been our trouble here. I petitioned the Supreme Court in 2001 and in 2006 to nullify the election. All the judges who sat in the two courts, without exception, agreed with us, the petitioners, that the election was not conducted in accordance with the law, it was violating the Constitution, that there were many irregularities and malpractices, but disagreed on whether they should cancel it or not cancel it. And on the question, on the single question, that we have not sufficiently demonstrated the quantitative effect of the non-compliance with the law, that you should be able to show that if there was violence, that violence led to so many votes being lost, which if they had not been lost would have led to a different outcome. In fact, in our case, the lawyer for Mr. Museveni and the Electoral Commission argued, because they had killed 4 people, and they argued that, if these 4 people had voted, they would have only cast 4 votes. So how could that have changed the difference in votes of more than 1 million, which was there? So one cannot compute the effect of even killing 1 person on voters. What is the chilling effect? How many people will fear to go and vote? How many people will fear and say, let's vote this person so that more people don't die? How you can't quantify it. So I think the critical element that was exciting in the Kenyan judgment was that we must look at the quality, not so much the quantity within the elections.
Okay, leaving Uganda aside just for a few seconds, and we go to where I come from, the neighboring country, Kenya. What's your take on what some members of parliament and Uhuru Kenyatta want to do in making sure or passing over a rule, making sure that the apex court, which is the Supreme Court, cannot nullify an election?
Well, what is going on in Kenya, first of all, I must put a caveat that I am not entirely conversant with, that I don't have all the information, because I have a full plate of our own problems, which keep me very busy and involved. So I must confess, I am not fully seized of all the goings on in Kenya. Having said that, I generally believe that the processes that are going on in Kenya are not advised by different ingredients from the processes that are taking place in Uganda. This is all post-colonial Africa trajectory. Colonial transition through what was independence was really shifting only from foreign rule to domestically generated leaders, but the governance systems did not change. And Kenya has made some headway in reforming the constitutional legal framework, which has arisen out of struggle. I must be clear that the struggle for liberation, the struggle for transition from narrow control to popular control is not, so what we are seeing in Nairobi, in Kenya, is part of those struggles.
But Dr. let's calm things just a bit. How does your family take it when they see you fighting for this country? And then sometimes you even go as far as going to the streets to demonstrate.
As an individual, first of all, my wife, we met in a struggle. She herself, even without me, would possibly do exactly what I am doing, and indeed she has had to pay her own price. She has been in jail several times and suffered the humiliation that I go through. So the task now of getting the others to come to terms with this has been a joint one. And so, but that doesn't mean that there is no trauma. It's just a question of the choices.
All right, Dr. Thank you very much. I'm actually honored to have interviewed you, and I wish you all the best when it comes to your dreams and your leadership when it comes to this country. I wish you all the best and all the love from Kenya. Well, viewers, that was Dr. Kizza Besigye, the opposition leader of Uganda, and we were just looking at Uganda through the eyes of Dr. Kizza Besigye. See you soon. That, ladies and gentlemen, was my sit down with the bold, the strong, the followed, the people's president of Uganda, Mr. Dr. Kizza Besigye.